Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast, the people it reaches. My objective was to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey, and I love the fact I get to do that. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, spiritual coach, spiritual mentor, as well as a podcast host, podcast creator. I love what I get to do. I get to hold people's space, help people understand why they're here, release the layers, truly tap into their soul, to their essence. And I get to do it every day. I feel like with the planet's going through a shift, and I love what I get to do. And today's episode is a little bit deeper and a bit special. I have somebody who I've mentored, who I've felt a soul connection with, and who is a beautiful soul. I'm excited for this episode, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, introducing Gabriella, also known as Gabby. But Gabby, can you introduce yourself and in whatever form you want? Over to you.
Hi, my name is Gabriella. I am a personal trainer. I am a mom of three. I I wear many different hats. Um, but by nature, I'm just a nerd that's in the gym that teaches people how to get fit and strong.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, right? I feel like you need to give yourself more credit. I definitely feel, and we spoke about it, right? The healer you are, we all have four bodies, right? Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And I get you help a lot of people on the physical. But I've also seen and heard you talk about the healing you do and the light that you shine. So I want to give you credit for that too. And so how does that feel?
So I guess so I am also a healer. Then, one of my modalities as a personal trainer is I am a fascial stretch therapist. So, in the simplest form, that's sort of, I like to call it Reiki on steroids, whereby I move fascia, which is tissue that surrounds muscles, and it relieves a lot of tension in the body. And as we know, with trauma, with ancestral trauma, whether, whatever we've been through, it does store in the body and it does manifest in different ways. If there's something that is going on in our spiritual world, I truly believe that it does manifest in our physical world. And what I've learned through my practice and working with various clients, whether it's from a strengthening standpoint, whether it's from a weight loss standpoint, or even a rehabilitative standpoint, which is where this practice of mind fascial stretch therapy comes in. I've learned that through releasing the tension in my clients' bodies, we actually get a lot deeper than just the physical. And I've actually been able to, I guess this is where my journey started off, as a healer, where I could actually definitively understand and identify that what I am feeling and what I would have felt in the past, that I would have been like, oh, like, I don't know what that is. Oh, no, this is real energy coming off of people's bodies. And I can physically feel it moving, whether through my hands or just sort of in the space that's around me. Because then the result of that, when clients get off the table, they're like, I don't know what happened, but something just happened. And they're either crying and it's like, these are good tears, or they're like, I just feel like a weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. So yeah, that's that's
That's
the
beautiful.
healer.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I have had the pleasure of mentoring you and guiding you, and I've seen you transform. You found me through this podcast, which for me just is beautiful. I love the journey. I love the connection. I love the soul contracts that people are guided to this podcast and they reach out and the kind of the journey, the next phase of the journey we go through. I wonder if you can talk about, I know it feels like lifetimes ago, but what inspired you to reach out and kind of start working with me? Where did that come from? How did that feel? I know, like I said, probably feels like lifetimes ago, but anything that comes through, I'd love for you to talk about it.
Yeah. So I was sitting in my room, actually, where I am sitting currently right now.
I love it.
And this would and this would have been in no, what year are we in? 2025. So this would have been in November of 2023. I was still on mat leave. It might have been 2023 or 2022. One of those years. Anyways, I was coming off of my third mat leave. But I felt like I was in a really dark place. I wasn't too sure if it was postpartum depression, if it was like I was actually depressed. I'm not sure. I was just in this place. It was COVID. I had two babies, and I'm like, I am going insane. Like, I don't know what's happening. Do I need to go back to the church? Like, am I in? Because, yeah, COVID kind of pulled everything apart. Now, I grew up in the Catholic Church, so I've always been a spiritual person. Um, well, religious, I don't know, whatever we want to call
Sure.
it. That's my foundation. And so I've always had faith, right? I've always believed in a higher source. I've always believed in, the morals and the values that I've been taught through the church. However, a lot of things didn't make sense to me. So I had questions, and I did question a lot of these, some of the teachings, and I didn't really get many answers. So during this time that, this dark time, I was like, okay, I am looking for something. I'm looking for answers. I do feel a lot of things. I was searching for sort of validation of like the things that I was feeling. And I literally went on Apple Music podcast, like the podcast, and I searched up spiritual journey. Like I just typed in the words and your podcast came up. And the first podcast that you had ever released, I think it was like a meditation. There were a few of them back to back that had different meditations. There was an opening of the Akashic records. Those are the ones that I started with. And I started right from the beginning. So I scrolled all the way to the bottom and I was like, I'm going to listen to this guy from top to bottom. Because like at that point, there were many episodes. I over 50 episodes at the time when I found you. So I'm like, nope, I'm going to scroll because the voice resonated and I started from the top. And then from there, I caught all the way up it took me a good, I think probably 6 months, because because after that I had gone back to work, but I had started to practice a lot of the things that I was listening to, that I was hearing from the podcast. So the gaps that I had with respects to the things in religion that didn't make sense, you filled that gap.
Wow.
You and Stacy filled that gap through the dialogue, through the conversation, because I'm like, okay, there are a lot of things here, and I'll use the template of perfection, I guess. Like, because I always was just like, I'm striving for perfection. I'm striving to be like these saints. I'm striving for all of these things, but perfection doesn't necessarily make sense, because as a coach, I'm teaching my clients that we need to love ourselves, love the journey, and we're not actually striving for perfection because that doesn't exist. So I'm like, okay, well, in my spiritual practice, why am I striving for perfection if this thing doesn't necessarily exist? So you and Stacy really did a fantastic job, and continue to do a fantastic job of just sort of bridging that gap of and I was able to look at a lot of the life scenarios that I've had gone through from a different light, where it's just like, okay, I'm not going to be damned to hell, but I can use this scenario, and what is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn from this scenario? Or what
Yeah.
is the lesson that I'm supposed to learn from this interaction with somebody that has or what are these cycles and these patterns that sort of keep coming up? What am I actually supposed to look at it? So I was able to look at it from a different lens and not necessarily from that place of judgment. And for me, and I mean, to this day, I'm still continuing to work on that, not being too judgmental on myself and actually allowing myself and giving myself permission to make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and just extract information rather than eternal doom, eternal damnation, right?
Excellent.
And then once I got all the way caught up, to wherever we were that day, I decided, I'm like, you know what? This whole concept of Akashic Records kept popping up in many different places because I listened to a few other podcasts like Gaia podcast. I listened to a few other things that, we talk about. I like to listen to a lot of extraterrestrial things, non-earthly things, because I like to be in I like to be in the cosmos.
I
It
like it.
seems a
I
lot
like it.
simpler. But then all of these other podcasts were also kind of either people were on the podcast either sharing their experiences with Akashic Records, and I'm like, okay, I think this is my sign. I think this is my sign that maybe I should actually tap into this Akashic Record, and that's what actually led me to reaching out to you. Because also one of the podcasts that you would have talked about is like the messages from the guides, and I'm like, okay, these guys must be speaking very loudly because everyone's saying the same thing.
I'm glad you
I'm like,
listened. I'm glad you listened.
I'm like, this message thing is for real, right? Because it's literally everywhere, and I just can't unhear it. So then that's when I signed up for my Akashic record reading with you. And even just leading up to uh, that experience, there were a lot of signs prior to it. Then there was a lot that came through in the session, and then a lot of signs after. And I'm like, okay, a lot of these things are making sense. And then from there, it was almost as if um, the floodgates opened and all of these symbols, whether it's from animal interactions, whether it was from dreams, whether it was from conversations, me starting to feel goosebumps whenever I'm speaking to people, I'm like, I would like a lot of spiritual, physical, like changes started happening. And then I heard about the mentorship program, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is the next step because there are just a lot of things coming at me, and I'm not too sure how to decipher all of it, which then led me to entering the mentorship program, which that in and itself was absolutely phenomenal because the support that I felt throughout that process, but once again, the validation, I guess, is the theme um, of all of the things that I was experiencing and not necessarily trying to overthink or even outthink what was happening and just accept it and like, okay, this is what's happening, cool. I'm not gonna go too far deep into it and sort of convince myself out of the reality of what was happening. So that experience really did help me to justify my own realities, but then also help my clients and coach them through their own realities, right? So just validating like you're not strange, you're not weird, and the things that
Yeah.
you're seeing, hearing, and feeling, true. I might not feel them, but I absolutely believe everything that's happening, and this is valid, and this is your reality. So it's been a wonderful journey from the beginning of like how our two worlds collided, because it was definitely a collision because I was
Yeah.
like, okay, here we are.
Well, I always believe it's like when the students read, the teacher will show up, and it's always there's a divine timing and there's a soul contract. So I'm curious, what led you from an Akashic record reading, which is very personal, very in time, to trust and nudge to that you're ready to be guided from a mentorship perspective? What did that feel like? Can you share anything about what that transition was like? What can you led you to sign up?
Yeah, so I had listened to so after my Akashic record reading, I had listened to it about two times after, with a good maybe like month to a month and a half time frame in between, just to see what I heard, any new insights that came from it. And some things still didn't quite connect. So whether it was things that were sort of suppressed within me, where I'm just like, oh, like I don't necessarily want to believe that, or like but those uncomfortable things were the reason that pushed me towards reaching out and even going further and deeper from the mentorship standpoint, because um I had listened to, once again, one of your other podcasts where it's just like
Love it.
the things the things that I began to recognize that a lot of the things that I was suppressing were the things that I needed to work on, right? And I felt that the things that came through in the Akashic record reading, I'm like, he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know me from A to Z at this point. This was our first contact point from an interaction standpoint. I'm like, this stuff is real. This is really happening. And these things that have come up aren't like how will he know? How could he know? Like like I can't make this up and he can't make this up.
Yeah,
So like
I, I love it. I love it. It's so true. There's magic there for sure, right?
yeah. So I felt safe. I felt very safe. At no point in time did I feel unsafe during the reading where I'm just like, this is scary. I felt like, okay, this is something that I need to know. And I'm a very curious person. So I'm like, I actually really resonate with his voice because if I'm still listening and keeping up with all of these podcasts and actually practicing these things daily, and I feel good about the practices, the things that I'm putting into practices, even like the journal prompts, I might not write them, but I'm actively doing gratitude walks and like, practicing these things daily. I'm
Beautiful.
like,
So beautiful.
this is coming from a good place. This is something good that I should continue on with. So that was the motivation to continue on, because I'm like, okay, if I feel this way about implementing these practices, if we go into some of the things that I didn't agree with or I didn't agree with the Akashic record reading, I'll feel, yeah, I knew I'd feel uncomfortable. I remember telling you that from day one. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like a lot of me is like, I want to do this, but a lot of me is just like, I don't want to talk about this.
I felt that for sure. I felt that many times for sure. But I do have to give you a dues. You jumped in, and I always say that with people. It's like with this work, the deeper you go, the deeper you kind of share who you are, the more that you're going to get out of it. So I will give you a dues.
Thank you.
There was a connection there. You trusted me to share whatever you're going through, and it's a sacred space, and um, I feel like it's a soul contract for me to hold your space while you go through the shift. I always feel that whoever signs up has done a lot of the pre-work. And it kind of feels like when you're in the program that you're in an accelerated phase, but it feels accelerated, but you've done a lot of the pre-work, so it may not be as accelerated as you think, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you went through a lot of breakthroughs and you shifted a lot in that phase of the mentorship program, and I'm curious if there's any of the stories you want to share. Obviously, I'm not going to share, but anything you want to share as to the breakthroughs that you had, the epiphanies, anything that comes into your heart.
Yeah, no, totally. I'd absolutely love to share. So I mean, the first thing that sort of comes comes to mind was how much I disliked doing mirror work, and how much I avoided it for such a long time, to the point where like to this day I'm actually looking forward to doing mirror
I
work.
love it. I love
And
it.
you would ask me weekly, did you do your mirror work? And I'd come in like, no, I did not. Like, no, I did not. But for me, that has that piece, just the mirror work and how much I avoided it, really did show me and teach me that a lot of the programming, right? And a lot of my own sort of insecurities did come from programming that I didn't necessarily agree with. So that was the actual block. And the way that I viewed myself wasn't because of how I truly felt about myself, but it was truly the letting go of programming,
Yeah,
right? And having to face that and sit down in front of a mirror, it was, I don't want to look at myself and think about these thoughts and how sad these thoughts make me, because I don't resonate with them. But being able to accept the fact that like the sadness wasn't because I was doing anything wrong. The sadness was really because it didn't align with what my true purpose is and what my soul's journey was meant to be. So
yeah,
being in, yeah, so like I don't know if that makes sense. Like, so
It does. I
it's not
mean,
scary.
yeah. I mean, my role is never to force it. If you did the mirror work because I was telling you to do it, that wouldn't really work, right? You're doing it for me, not for you. And the point with mirror work is it gives you an opportunity to look through your eyes and see into your soul. And sometimes that's uncomfortable because we don't like what we see. So, I gently held your, like I said, I don't force anyone to do anything, but I gently held your space because I knew it was important. I felt it. And, you stuck with it, and like you say, it made a difference, right? It helps you to understand who you are from the inside, because the work that you do, you work a lot with a lot of people on their physical body, but as we talked about earlier, there's a lot more to it. It's not always easy to do it to yourself.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's, and another, as you were as we said, mirror work again. And now even just like my excitement to do the mirror work and actually go inward through, when you and I first met, my hair
Oh yeah.
was, I didn't realize the attachment that I had to my hair. And I could, do straight hair, curly hair. My hair is like that wash and go type of hair. And throughout this journey, I locked my hair. So now my hair, I've got dreadlocks. And even leading up to the decision to lock my hair, I went back into memories of, comments that were made in the past to me, where it's just like, you have good hair, why would you lock your hair? Or like the negative connotations that dreadlocks would have. I grew up, like, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, so it's very interesting in terms of like what's proper and what is not proper, and what's accepted in the workplace, what's not accepted in the workplace. So we've come quite a long way, to the point where along this journey, I locked my hair. And I honestly thought that locking my hair would mean less maintenance because, like I said, I'm a mom of three. So I don't have time to take care of my hair. Not realizing that it's equally the same amount of maintenance. But now I genuinely am locked in front of a mirror to retwist my own hair, the same
Yeah.
mirror that I did not want to sit in front of. And fast forward to now, where it's like, I look forward to that time. I could have somebody lock my hair, but as the universe would have it, I am not able to book appointments when I would like to book appointments for somebody else to do my hair. So I'm having to do it. So through that process as well too, there was a lot of shedding of sort of like my own image to my hair. And that came through in the mirror work, right? Where I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, am I truly satisfied with the person in front of me? Like, do I really think that I'm beautiful? Like, what are the defining pieces of me that make me feel beautiful, that make me feel like, what and through that, it was like, okay, me tapping into my feminine energy and like really practicing that vulnerability. And I'm like, oh my God, all of these things in front of the mirror, this is what I've been avoiding, because I've been doing the super mom thing and doing all of these
Yeah.
things and constantly go, go, go. And it really helped me step back. But until we went through, because the that that mentorship was, you challenged me quite a lot with respect to
Oh,
that.
God.
And yeah, that, identifying, the masculine energy and when it's necessary to move through that space. And then the value of the feminine energy, and how much, not just the people that I'm working with need this side as
Yeah.
well, but how much the planet needs it, right? And like, it is that sort of um, shift from a holistic standpoint, not just me as an individual, but the whole planet is shifting, right? So
Yeah. And it's I love how our guides support us, right? I mean, there was resistance for you, as you said, to be in front of the mirror. You could have got frustrated at not being able to book an appointment to do your hair, but you trusted it, and there was magic there. And that's, it's sometimes it's how how we expect our guides to show off that we actually miss the magic. So it's beautiful that you recognize that, well, hold on a second, not getting those appointments actually was your guides helping you, right? There was forces in play that, that we have no control over, but you could have get annoyed, but it didn't. Instead, you're like, okay, let's go with it. And that's powerful. So if you could talk to the version of you that kind of before we began this journey, maybe either before Akashic Records or before mentorship, and if you could say something to her, what would you say? Putting you on the spot a little bit, but hey.
Your intuition is and was never wrong. You've always known where you needed to be, what you needed to do, and yeah, believe that and trust, like, you have permission to trust that the things that you are feeling and you're doing is where you need to be. Because I would doubt that
I
all the
love it.
time.
I love it. And through the program, you've always jumped in both feet, and I'm so proud of you for doing that. But your physical body was also affected through this journey. So I wonder if you could talk about that, because I always talk about the vessel of our soul gives us so many messages, and so often we look outside. Let's Google something, but we're getting so many messages from. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about how that felt.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay, so where do I start? So, throughout this, I guess at the beginning, I could always feel sort of energy sort of moving through the portals of my hand. That's where it all started. Like, I did my certification for my fascial stretch therapy, and I remember the first time I treated somebody, I put my hands on their feet, and I could physically feel my right hand burning, and I'm like, what is happening here? Mind you, I'm in a class full of people and I'm having a full-blown spiritual awakening, and like, my gifts are just like, hey, this is what you do. Um, Whether it was a previous life, or this is it. This is the thing.
100%. I love
And
it.
I remember asking the client, I said, did something happen to your right foot? And she's like, yeah, I broke my ankle. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay,
It's good
cool.
to know.
I'm like, all right, so that's what I'm feeling here. Cool. Noted. That was my first experience, and it was gentle. It was definitely a very gentle introduction to what these healing gifts are. So as I continued on sort of meeting different clients, well, not even meeting clients, the universe actually sending me the people that I'm supposed to be in front of, because I had left corporate, started my own. All of this happened throughout the journey as well too. Leaving corporate, starting my own business, and I'm like, oh, what's happening? My healing gifts are coming. It was just everything all at once. And then it began. The first I treated somebody, and there was a lot of blockages through I've started to explore, like, if I could feel different chakras and blockages through chakras. And sure enough, as I started to lean into just allowing myself to kind of feel, and just allowing my guides to guide me through the different areas of the body that I needed to address at those relevant times, um, I was able to help this client unlock some stored energy within their sacral chakra. And it manifested in the form, sacral, yeah. It
Hmm.
manifested in the form of my own physical body actually feeling it. So after I had treated this client, I was guided home by hawks. Hawks are animals that I see, that my guides come through all the time. And I got home and I remember being extremely dizzy. I was like, what is happening to my body? I felt weak. I couldn't move. I'm like, okay, am I getting my period? What is happening? I'm like, I'm supposed to get my period, but it's not actually coming anytime soon. Cool. I picked up my kids, I fed them. They're all sitting in the kitchen, having their dinner. My oldest daughter, she's 7 at the time, she's feeding her sisters 1 and 2, and they're just having a great conversation. Dad's not home, and I'm on the couch in excruciating pain. My uterus was just going insane, and I'm like, what is happening? I was so debilitated for at least a good 3 hours, and then all of a sudden it ended. So I was like, okay, I thought I was going to pass out. This is how much pain I was in. So then I reached out to the friend that I had done the treatment on, and I just reached out to check in and see, hey, how are you doing? Just wanted to follow up. And the response was, I'm great. Like, I'm doing just fine. I'm like, how is the pain in your hips? How is the pain in and around that area that we worked on, that, we addressed? She's like, I feel absolutely nothing. So then at that moment, I was like, okay, so this energy that I moved, maybe it did pass through me. Maybe I'm helping to move energies, not just physically removing it from people's bodies. Maybe there are certain things that need to pass through me for it to really be dealt with. So that was a first. That was the first time I had physically felt the power, I guess, of these healing gifts, as they are supposed to help other people, right? I myself being sort of that intermediate person. I don't have the
Yeah,
right words, but
but
sort of assisting.
yeah,
Um,
you allowed your body to be the probably maybe because her body couldn't handle it. So you allowed at some level your body to be the healing element, and it needed to be physical. And this is the thing; it was your choice.
yeah.
You may have not felt it at the time. Then maybe your physical was like, "Wait, hold on, did I agree to this?" But that's the beauty. It's like once you open yourself up to this, there's magic, but you're gonna feel it. And the other thing I felt with you through your openness to allow your kids to be your expanders, and it was just beautiful to see that you the kind of the epiphanies you got as to why your kids picked you, and you know your journey with holding their space. I thought that was beautiful too. Just how did that feel for you?
This was so I definitely always felt that my children were, or even just from a parenting role, that the way that I would approach parenting would be to actually learn from them, and really understand what they are also here to do, and that I'm not the only person telling them what to do, and it's not do as mommy says. And that's truly how I practice that. And what I did find out through my Akashic record reading was that my oldest daughter was my sister in a previous life. And that truly made a lot of sense to me, because the way that we sort of butt heads, the way, for one, I was like, oh my God, or the way that she challenges me, or even just some of the gifts that her and I share. So it's all, there's almost like a duality between us, where it's like I'm a feeler and I can feel a lot of things, and she's actually a seer, so she can see things that I can't see. So I'll feel something and she'll see something, and it's like this beautiful mesh between the two. And then my second girl, as we talk about the mirror work, but even just shadow work, like my childhood self, or that sort of freedom mindset, that just like let everything go, there's no worries, that's my second girl. She is not scared of anything. She is not afraid to be herself. She's not afraid to challenge anything. And those were the pieces of me that I sort of buried, whether it's due to programming and stuff like that, that she really came back into this world to remind me of the joy that there is still in this world, regardless of all of the stuff that's going on. Like, there is so much to be joyous about. And I say this to people all the time. I'm like, I truly think this girl has been sent to this planet to show what unconditional love is to everybody, regardless of where you're coming from. She's going to run up to you and give you a hug, or she's going to tell
Oh,
you that you're beautiful. And that was me. That was me, just unapologetically, just like that part of me was, I really did bury that because once again, programming, just interacting with people, meeting different souls and learning different lessons throughout life. It's like, well, I can't trust anybody. I can't do this. I can't do that. And obviously, I mean, they're kids. So, we teach them what different things will, the different
sure.
ways that things will present. But the first instinct is not to be afraid. And that's what Melody has taught me. Do not be afraid. There will be things that you will interact with that you're not used to, and it doesn't seem, like part of the plan and how it's supposed to go. But if I approach it at a fair, then it's just going to give me back that same energy, right?
Yeah.
So with Melody, it was like, I'm like, okay, that was my reminder. Um, and then Isla, Isla is her own little person. She's the baby. And this little baby, the word in the dictionary would be described as stubborn, but it's not stubbornness. It's uniqueness. Because what she does really well, that also, once again, another piece of me, because each one of them is a piece of my strongest traits that were either buried and I wasn't practicing. But it was that headstrong notion to not follow the path that everybody else is going, to be brave, like, I'm going to blaze my own trail. Everybody's going this way. This is what I want to do, because she breastfed the longest. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to wean you. Like, what are we doing here? Nope. She weaned herself when she was ready. She walked the latest. We tried everything. I'm like, okay, like, hey, like, let's give her a walker. Nope,
She's
none
in
of that.
charge. She's
None of
in charge.
that.
Yeah.
She walked when she was ready to walk. Potty training, the same thing. She's like, nope, I'm gonna do it when I want to. Because I'm like, all of these timelines once again, programming. I had all of these expectations for her based off of what her sisters were doing. And I was like, no, I'm
I
not
love it.
doing it.
Like,
Right?
I'm in charge. I'm in charge.
I'm
I'm
in
gonna.
charge.
I love it. I love it. And this is
So
what I mean
even
by
like that,
yeah.
the okayness to say no, and I don't have to say yes, the people pleasing to everything. Like, it's okay.
And that's the reason I wanted you to talk about that is it's just a message to our listeners that the people around you are there for a reason. Especially your kids, they picked you for a reason. They're your expanders, and they can be frustrating. But if you allow the magic, maybe you'll realize what they're here to teach you. So, and just as a side story, I'm sure I told you this, but I also feel, I always feel that Sidra guides me to people to me. She's the, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, she's the mentor, my friend that's now no longer in this realm. She's one of my guides, and one of your kids being called Bella, that was Sidra's nickname, and just like it's like when you mention that name, I'm like, all right, Sidra, I get it. Okay, you had your hand to play in this. All right, I get it, and it just
200%.
I love it, I love it. The other part I felt through your journey, and actually I still feel you're going through it, is the impact of your ancestors. And the reason I ask you that, I feel like our ancestors are so much more present in this moment. I feel like what we're going through as a planet, what we're going through as individuals, is releasing so much ancestral karma, but they're also here to teach us something. I'm curious if there's anything you want to share about your ancestors and how they're kind of helping you and how they've guided you.
Yeah, I would love to. So, like I mentioned earlier, I am from Trinidad and Tobago. So, I was born and raised there. I moved to Canada when I was 12 years old. So, there, um, with the ancestry and the history of the Caribbean, and long story short, obviously, I am an ancestor of a slave, right? So, my origins really aren't in Trinidad, and I've never actually fully felt like that was the homeland. Africa and some part in West Africa. I actually don't know where, um, which particular country from West Africa my lineage would be from. That has always been like, oh, one day I need to go back to the motherland. One day I need to go back to the motherland. Anywho's, there's a lot of remnants of history and that African history that is still present back home to this day, and we see a lot of that in our carnival and the actual history of carnival, but then the images and the characters that are the traditional carnival characters that are still represented in it today. So, for instance, the I'm going to talk about music actually. I'm being led to speak about
Do
the
it.
pan and the African drums. I am by no means a musician, but I love to dance. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm singing and I'm dancing. That's my thing. That's what re-energizes me. I love frequency, right? And I think that's what it is. It's a frequency. So the African drums were banned in Trinidad when the slaves came over. So through that, the African slaves had moved to tambu bamboo, which is just like bamboo as well as like steel instruments and things like that to try to upkeep their culture and their spiritual practices. That too was also banned. But because Trinidad and Tobago had oil, we had these empty barrels and these oil drums. So this is where the steel drum originated in Trinidad and Tobago out of these drums. The slaves realized that they could cut the barrels in different depths to make different sounds. So the larger drums had a lower bass, like a deeper sound, and the tenor pans, which is like the shorter pans, they have a higher pitch. And they created these steel orchestras. So this is one of the instruments that is still present today. We have these steel orchestras, literally a whole orchestra of pans that were used to kind of
Wow.
continue that, to continue the history. Like it's still a continuation of like we had to recreate and recreate and recreate. So even just from an ancestral healing standpoint, there's a lot of healing that I know that I'm here to do, and
Yeah.
it leads me back to just like back home, right? Like what have we been through? Where do we need to return to? And what were some of the things that were lost in transition or part of just the healing? So even the way that I look at my parents, my grandparents, and some of their practices, I do understand and have a greater appreciation and forgiveness really for some of the practices that or the things that they might have said back in the day, where I'm just like, why would you ever say that to a child, or why would you ever do that to a child? But I get it now. It doesn't necessarily make it okay, but I understand it was a method and a modality of survival, right? And as a healer now, it is part of my journey to help release a lot of that ancestral trauma that we speak about, right? And it looks like that through many different forms. Um, Frequency and music, understanding where it came from, right? And now the appreciation I have for the pan is no longer I'm angry because they had to ban the African drums or this, but I can listen to Cuban music that still has African
Mhm.
drums in it. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds familiar. Why does this sound familiar? Oh, cool, this is the pan. And you see the synchronicities of all of these things because we are one people, all of us in different ways.
I
And the frequencies show up in many similarities across the board, regardless of where you're from.
I love it. I love it. And it's really interesting. It's like we think of spirituality sometimes as we need to do this process, this meditation, and music, the vibration of it touches our soul in a different way. Dancing, again, allows us to channel in a different sort of way. And it's just like, when I see your, your social media, and when you're singing, dancing, there's a rhythm and there's a connection to your guides. I feel that you get that you can't get through meditation and you can't get through other forms. And it's cool that you're open to that. Maybe that's the message for others too, right? It's that music words have a vibration. I know that my words have a vibration. I know that my words can be healing, but music can also do the same. And songs, dancing, there's a vibration to it, and everything has a different vibration. Different modalities and different vibrations work for different people. So, you know, if you as the younger version of you used to enjoy music and dancing, and I would encourage you to do it again. And maybe there's just some magic there, because we've become so serious in life, right? There's so much heaviness on the planet when, you know, we're a soul. We chose to be here. We're having a human experience. So why are we trying to bypass the human experience and it being so serious? I get there's a lot of serious stuff happening on the planet. I'm not saying, I'm not saying let's forget that, but I'm saying focus on having fun, focus on movement,
Yeah,
focus on dancing. So thank you for that message. I think that's really, really beautiful.
you're welcome.
I'm curious, what are you feeling the planet's going through? What are you seeing through your clients? What are you feeling when you connect with the planet's energy? How do you feel about everything that's going on?
Yeah, I feel like this year is a very expansive year. I think last year, the thing that sort of came through for me was transformative. Um, and though it might seem like this year in a lot of places, where things are still continuing to sort of like break down and like it's still in utter chaos, I think a lot of the transformation from last year, the expansion of it is almost like continued breakdown, if that makes sense. And
Does
that's what I feel for this year. And it's not pretty. And it's really, I think what I'm guided to help people do this year is really looking at things from an expansive standpoint and building off of the transformative energy of last year. Because yes, okay, this is chaotic, because I get a lot of clients that come in. I mean, half the session is like, a lot of the session's obviously very physical, but it's very emotional and spiritual in and itself as well too, right? So a lot of the breakthroughs, it's like while we're transforming somebody's body, we are expanding their mind. And
100%.
that's literally what I'm helping guide people to do on a daily basis. They come in with these physical goals, not realizing like this ain't it.
Yeah.
This isn't all we're here to
It-
do.
and it's a soul contract, right? When you
Yeah.
expand people's hearts, I feel it. You expand people's hearts. It's beautiful. So, what would your advice be to, anyone that's listening to this episode is maybe going through some tough challenges, or maybe you want some guidance to how do they connect to the messages? How do they listen to their guides? How do they be more in flow? What would you advise them to do?
So my advice would be to, as simple as it sounds, allow things to happen the way that they're supposed to happen, but also allow yourself to feel the things that you are feeling. If you are upset, if you are heartbroken, if you're disappointed, if you've lost your job, what, like, a lot of things are changing, allow yourself to experience that first and foremost. Don't try to bypass it. Once you allow yourself to experience that, we can then expand on it. What exactly is it from this moment that I'm either one, upset about, pissed off about, happy about? Because there are things within that we can start to analyze. And the human brain loves to analyze. So that's fine. Allow the spirit to feel first. Let's let the spirit feel first. And then the human can integrate and analyze what's going on. Then let's find something good about it. What's good about it? Because there's always one thing, just one thing that's good about the situation, right? And then from there, we can ask and elaborate from our guides like, hey, can you confirm that this is where I'm supposed to be? And you get a blow of the breeze, or you hear that little whisper, or you open your eyes and like you see, some sort of magical flash in front. It comes up in many different ways. But if we can find the what's good about it,
Love it.
we can begin to move from that point.
Great, great advice. So, as we kind of get into the end of the episode, I'd love I don't know if the work that you do is just physical, as in person, or do you do work online? But I'd love for you to share, what does working with you look like? And if it is in person, then please let everyone know where you're based. Um, but yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I have many different ways to work with people. Primarily, I work like I said, I live in Canada. I'm out of the Hamilton region. So I do personal training. I have fascial stretch therapy. A lot of my practice does incorporate the spiritual work as well too. I have a very holistic practice where I meet with a client, like, so we can jump on a discovery call just to figure out, what your needs are, and if it is a good fit. And then we kind of go through, like, okay, this is what I would suggest that we need, based off of the things that, the client gives me and so forth. But I also work virtually with many clients all around the world. I have clients in Asia, America, the
Beautiful.
Caribbean. So from even so I do, and this is virtual personal training, um, and or some so spiritual work. So I'm actually getting into more of giving myself permission
I love
to
it.
move through the gifts that I have. So that's guided meditations, and sort of being that, using these gifts and helping to guide people as to, like, where to start with their journeys. So, but ultimately, how that looks, we'll jump on a discovery call first and kind of see where we're needed, whether that's a physical standpoint, spiritual standpoint, or an integrated standpoint.
I love it. I love it. I'll include Gabriella's details in the show notes, etc. And yeah, I'd encourage you to follow her on social media. She's going to do, maybe she doesn't know yet, but she's here to do big things, and I'm excited to see what's next. I feel like we've opened lots of doorways, but I'm curious how you're going to step through them. So, how do you feel about the future?
I am excited, and I'm truly, truly excited and sort of open and ready to allow the universe to do what it needs to do for me, because I'm at a point in my life now where I truly understand and believe that the universe is working for me, because I will ask for certain things. Like, for instance, if I'm running late on a morning, I'm like, universe, I need a pause. And then sure enough, 5 seconds later, my client's like, I'm running late. I'm like, thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So I've never,
Allowing the universe to show off for sure.
yeah, and the universe really shows off, right? And I think that's the biggest thing, is really having that faith that it is actually happening. Was a big turning point. So I'm excited for whatever the future holds. Like, I'm somebody that applies themselves, so I know once I apply myself, the universe is gonna put me right where I'm supposed to be.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Gabriella's healing abilities and her light and her dancing, I feel like is here for a reason. So thank you for allowing me to guide you. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast and being part of my journey. And just anyone that's listening, it's be kind to yourself. Movement, listening to music, allowing the universe to show off. Right? I mean, sometimes it's like asking the universe to give you a pause. Sometimes we ask that, but we don't expect it, and it's just like, well, hold on. If you're not open to magic, then what? The universe is going to be like, okay, this person doesn't want magic, so we're not going to. So allow the magic to happen. So, Gabriella, thank you for being who you are. Thank you for shining your light. I'm excited to see what the future holds. I'm sending so much love and light out to everybody. I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
Thank you so much, Nims, for having me on this show. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor. Like I said, I would have never thought in a million years that I would have found you, like 2 years ago, to be on the podcast now. So I am truly, truly grateful for all of the experiences that you and I have had together, and grateful for this opportunity to share this light that you've so graciously challenged me to do over our time during the mentorship, and continue to do, because it feels right, and
Yeah,
I'm truly, truly blessed and grateful for this
I love it. I
opportunity.
love it. And I love how it's full circle, right? You found my podcast, and it's kind of, as you said, would you have ever dreamed of being on the podcast?
Yeah.
I love it when you allow magic to happen. And I know our journey's not done. I'm sure you'll be back and, talk about the next phase of whatever you're going through and how we're shining a light. The planet, as you say, I do feel the next year or so is going to be intense. But every soul that's here is meant to be. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gabriella. It's interesting. Is it Gabby? Is it Gabriella? It's that. But I love using your given name. So Gabriella, thank you for being here. Thank you for shining your light. And to everybody else, we'll be back soon. Thank you.
Thank you.